it going, everyone? Welcome back to my channel, and today, as you can tell by the title, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite albums that came out in 2018. This is one of a couple year-end lists that I'm going to be doing this year. Not as many as last year, just because I've had to cut back a lot from my channel in general just because of other work things and just life. That's what happens when you become an adult. But I guess we're just gonna jump right into this. While you're here, make sure to leave a like on this video, and if you happen to be new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And let me just say one thing before we get into the honorable mentions. I'm only gonna show 3, but basically, YouTube copyright has been kind of messed up lately, and it's just catching absolutely everything, even though my use of these songs in my videos, or any other creator that uses songs in this way, is purely for context in the video of what I'm talking about, and it is protected under fair use. But YouTube tends to think otherwise, and basically puts claims on all of our videos and makes it impossible for us to really make any money, and it's just ridiculous. It's a really broken system. I'm not going to get into it in depth, but basically, if there aren't any song clips in this video, I am really sorry. I want to show you guys what these albums sound like, at least give you a little preview, and I'm gonna try to do that, but if it doesn't happen, I am truly sorry, and just blame YouTube. Anyways, now that that's through, let's get into this actual countdown, starting with 3 honorable mentions.
You are sick, you are proud, you are never backing down. I got a soft spot to be fucked up. I spent years alone and unloved. I wasn't ready for the rapture. It must be true. I was the one you break your fall, but now I'm shedding layers, fucking everything you wanted of. You were the heat sucked.
Starting off my list at number 10, we have Pilot by Hot Mulligan, a band that I discovered earlier this summer thanks to a Twitch viewer, actually. And the reason why I love Pilot so much is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, just read the song titles for yourself and you'll kind of get that right away. But the music on this is just killer. If you're emo and pop punk trash just like me, you're probably gonna love this album. It is very easy to listen to. It's just something you can throw on. You don't have to pay a ton of attention to it, and that's no insult to the band at all. I'm just saying it's something that's very easy to listen to and digest. And it's rather upbeat, so it's very catchy and a lot of fun to kind of groove to and just kind of jam along. Air guitar too. Another draw for me for Hot Mulligan and just this album in general is that the vocals are not perfectly polished. I love that they feel more raw and just imperfect, and that makes it feel a lot more real and honest, and I've always been drawn to that quality in this genre. And don't even get me started on the guitars, guys. The guitars are so incredibly technical, and they remind me of bands like Tiny Moving Parts with that emo Midwest charm. You know what I'm talking about. There's just a lot going on instrumentally than you would maybe originally think just upon first listen, but when you actually dive into what's going on with all the instruments and the guitar work, it just sounds very intricate, and it's very well done. Pilot is angsty, sincere, and it grabs your attention even when you're not paying attention.
Your eyes are so big, so don't listen. I only see you this way.
Like Pacific are up next at number 9 with their album In Spite of Me, and I actually fell in love with this band back in 2016 with their album Distant Like You Asked, which was incredibly relatable to my life at that time. So of course I looked forward to this new album, and while it isn't quite as strong as their debut, I still was really drawn to these songs. I'm a really big fan of their singer Jordan and his vocal style, because he just kind of has that throaty, like raspy tone, and he gets his points across. You really makes you hear what he's saying and feel all of his emotions, because just his delivery is so impactful. Sure, this is just a pop punk album, and a lot of people may be turned off by that if they don't like generic pop punk, but honestly, why are you on my channel if you don't like pop punk? But I feel like Pacific kind of do pop punk in their own way, because Jordan's voice kind of stands apart from the other bands in the scene, and it just adds a ton to their style. Like I said, you can really feel that emotion, that power in his voice. Sedatives, Had It Coming, The Spring, and Occupy Your Skin are some of my personal favorites from this record. But overall, it's a very personal listen, and I think a lot of these songs, and the lyrics in particular, will resonate with people if you've been in similar situations to the writer. Definitely check this one out if you haven't yet. It's only gotten better with time for me.
Simplify the motions and counteract the movements. Don't think twice, because this is love.
My next pick came out of left field completely for me. It is actually Swell by Tiny Moving Parts, and this is a band that I previously just could not get into. I don't know why with this record they completely won me over, but just before I couldn't really get into them, and now I love their sound. And I think I got into them because I finally started to kind of appreciate the musicianship and not just kind of listening to it on a surface level, but actually paying attention again to the instrumentation, to the lyrics, and other things that are more technical going on in the background that you may not notice originally. The guitars on this album are so sick. It just has that Midwest vibe, the guitar tapping, there's so much going on. And their vocalist Dylan has a very insane voice. He's so talented, really great at singing, and just brings that power. He belts out these choruses when he's singing or screaming. It's again just like Jordan, you can really hear that emotion. There's just a ton of energy on Swell, and it feels a lot more mature and better written than their past works, and I feel like it's very consistent, holds a lot of important messages. And I think the overall theme of this album, I believe I read, is that trying to kind of focus on the happy feelings and try to cover that self-doubt and move forward from it, even though it is really hard and you struggle. And that's something that a lot of people can relate to, of course, myself as well. And this album holds several of their best songs that they've ever crafted, like Caution, Smooth It Out, Applause, and so many others. Literally this whole album front to back is really enjoyable when you're in the mood for it. Now this one I really did not see coming, and I know I kind of said the same thing with the last one, but this is a band that I discovered just a couple months ago, and I'm glad I did because they put out an album this year, and of course it's making my list today. Now the band is Bearings, and the name of the album is Blue in the Dark. Now this is a great example of a pop punk, pop rock record from a younger band. This is their debut album, guys. Their first full length, and it's seriously awesome. The writing is really good, the musicianship is insane. I was really impressed and kind of blown away. They're really good at writing catchy choruses. Those hooks really draw you in, and they're gonna get stuck in your head, just begging you to keep playing this album. And there's a couple slower moments on the record as well. One of my favorites, Blue in the Dark, is just, it sounds so unique. Really not like anything I've heard before, and that's why I admired them so much. Bearings brings something very refreshing to the pop punk genre. They aren't really necessarily following that same formula that a lot of pop punk bands do. I think this album could be considered just rock in general because it really is not super heavily influenced in punk or pop punk, but it does have all those kind of sounds all thrown together in their own unique way. There really isn't a bad song on Blue in the Dark, but if I had to give you some bigger highlights, it would be the title track, Where You Are, Aforementioned, and Careless Clarity. Those are my favorites, and they're all just amazing. Go give this a spin, and just beware, you're gonna have one of these stuck in your head. Shoegaze fans, alternative fans, grunge and emo fans, this is the album for you. For number 6, we have the hazy and blissful Chrome Neon Jesus by Teenage Wrist. This record strikes the perfect balance between dreamy and more intense, heavier, like louder, but yet still kind of dreamy moments. They just have like such a cool sound. And it really feels like you're in the 90s when you're listening to this record, and that's just a good thing. It really fits that alt-rock vibe. And this was a really underrated album from this year. Just go give it the love it deserves because it really did not get enough attention. And if you want an idea of how this record sounds, go listen to songs like Dweeb, Stoned Alone, Waitress, and Swallow. If you're into that hazy, kind of atmospheric but grungy and just guitar heavy vibe, you're gonna love this. Halfway through the list at number 5, we have the emo rap alternative album Ruiner by Nothing Nowhere. And I discovered Nothing Nowhere because he signed to Fueled by Ramen, I believe, earlier this year. So that's how he got on my radar, and I eventually checked out his song Hammer because there was a music video released for that, and I honestly was not feeling it upon first listen, but I listened to it more and more, and some of his other songs like Hopes Up, Houdini, Clarity and Kerosene, and Ruiner and all that, and I just kind of felt the need to go back and listen again and again because it just sounded better and better with each listen for me. And the main reason I really like this album is because I connect with a lot of these lyrics. A lot of the stuff that Joe is saying, a lot of the stories he's telling, I think a lot of us around the age of like early 20s can kind of, resonate with. And I know the term emo rap can sound cringy to a lot of people, but like I said, I just connect with a lot of what Joe is saying in these songs, and I just love the overall sound of the music. He does a great job of kind of mixing like these hip-hop beats with like a subtle electric guitar that kind of sounds more gloomy and dreary. He does a fantastic job at creating just a mood. This is the perfect album to drive to at night or listen to right before you fall asleep. And if you relate too much, you might even shed an emo tear, but that's the point, isn't it? Beside Myself by Basement takes the number 4 spot from my list, and I've loved these guys for over 2 years now. I obviously fell in love with them with their 2016 album, Promise Everything, which made my year-end list that year. And this year they delivered yet again with the 90s alt-rock inspired grungy, just emo. I don't even know what it is, but it sounds so good and it takes me back, even though I wasn't really around in the 90s, but it just takes you back, you know? You just feel kind of nostalgic listening to a band making music like this in the year 2018. And I think they do take more of a straight up rock approach on this 4th studio album, and I think that's a good choice for them. It's not too emo, it's not too like grungy, it just kind of has elements of all those things to fit into the perfect rock record. And plenty of these choruses are stadium ready, and I honestly feel like if these songs came out like in the 90s or at least like early 2000s or something a long time ago, I feel like they would have been so popular because, like I said, these choruses are stadium ready. I can see them playing to huge crowds. Even if they only get to play smaller venues, it's the perfect music for a live show. The power is there and the lyrics stick with you. This album serves as a well-written and even more mature follow-up to their album Promise Everything. Disconnect, Stigmata, New Coast, and Be Here Now are just a few of the standouts from this record, but honestly, through and through, this is a beautiful listen. And it has some great louder tunes, but some softer moments as well. Just all around, a really awesome album that is so underrated. Please go check it out. So Boston Manor put out an incredibly underrated album this year as well. It is titled Welcome to the Neighborhood, and this one seriously surprised me a ton. I was a fan of Boston Manor before with their more aggressive pop punk style. I really liked their last album a lot, but this new sound, just seeing them actually experiment and take more risks is so rewarding because I had no idea that they were capable of this album. After hearing the first single, Halo, I was just blown away. I was won over, even though I already was won over. I was just like, yo, like this is gonna be an incredible album, and it was. This band expanded their sound a lot in just a short time. I don't think really anybody necessarily expected it, and this is more of a concept record that kind of tells the story of a fictional version of Blackpool, which is basically still just based on the actual Blackpool. And just everything that's going on there, how that city is kind of turned to crap just with all the drug use and everything like that. And it's really enjoyable that the frontman Henry Cox kind of writes from several different perspectives on this album. And he does a really great job of kind of setting the tone and the mood. But do not worry, the band did not strip away their heavier tendencies. There's still a lot of power here in the guitars, the drumming. There's a lot of that intensity that we love from their older stuff. It just transitioned into a newer sound, but still feeling like Boston Manor, if that makes any sense. They were experimenting a lot. There's some more like electronic type stuff that just feels more haunting, and like I said, it sets up the whole mood of this concept album. And at the same time, I think their playing is a lot more technical, more interesting. There's a lot more going on. It's not just the same old tendencies that you see in regular pop punk or anything like that. Like, they're actually kind of going above and beyond here. It's no doubt that this album holds like most of their best songs they've ever made, like Bad Machine, Halo, England's Dreaming. Those three are seriously just unbeatable. Boston Manor, thank you for taking risks because it clearly paid off.
Now it's wild to remember I was in love with you once. It's all love now, upside down.
We are so close to the top. At number 2, we have Proper Dose by The Story So Far, and honestly, this could seriously tie with my number 1 pick because it is just so close. And this is a record that I came back to all the time this year. I know it's only been out for a few months, but literally I just can't stop listening to it, especially some of these individual songs. Now, The Story So Far have been one of my favorite bands for a while now, and I obviously fell in love with them with their heavier pop punk stuff that they've done on every other album basically, and I love that, but it was just so refreshing to see them try something new and finally change things up, mellow out, and just become more honest in their writing on their 4th studio album. Proper Dose is all about addiction. Parker Cannon was struggling with addiction for a while, and it's about kind of recovering from that, bettering yourself, moving forward, growing up, you know, putting things in the past, letting go of any anger towards any people in your life, and just kind of going forward, you know? One of my favorite lines from this record that I think really describes it is, "It's all love now." Parker Cannon has written dozens of breakup songs, more bitter, aggressive type songs where he just feels very angry. He had a lot of anger. And it's just amazing to see his transformation now from that, this like cliche pop punk singer with like the microphone in his hand, to this more laid back, just relaxed. He seems so happy, just singing kind of like Liam Gallagher, performing in a more like laid back way, and I just feel like it's more intimate, and I'm just so happy for his progress. And the band in general, they sound better than ever here. And while the power in their older music still gets me going, I was relieved to hear like some more laid back instrumentation and choruses, less like crazy vocals from Parker that didn't sound so angry. And of course, finally some new lyrical content, more about life, addiction, like I said, growing up. Every single track is enjoyable in its own way, and the album as a whole is incredibly euphoric, bright, and just unforgettable, with those louder moments like If I Fall and Out of It, and the more beautiful, soothing tracks like Take Me As You Please and Upside Down. This is a huge step up for The Story So Far, and I couldn't be more proud. Alright guys, although it is extremely close, the number 1 album had to go to Trench by 21 Pilots. This record absolutely blew my mind. It exceeded my expectations, literally any of my expectations, and Tyler brought the world of Trench to life on this record, and it explores an array of several different genres all across the board, whether it's electropop, rock, alt-rock, you know, reggae. There's so much going on, and we get all of that in just under an hour. Now, that may sound like a pretty long album, and a lot of people will be turned off by that runtime. You know, even when I went in, I was like, oh god, this is kind of a long album. But when you really sit down and just listen to the whole thing as one piece of artwork, it is just by far the best album listening experience of the year for me, despite it being very moody and dark in places. It's pleasant and enjoyable, and there are so many different types of songs on here. There are plenty of upbeat, catchy ones, cute ones, you know, more sad and emotional, real ones, and ones that are about this Dima and Trench and everything that nobody even understands, but there's just a lot going on, and I really appreciate that. And I think a lot of this album was written about literally making an album, like writing music, and just his perspective, kind of the pressure that they have now for being so big. Like, what are they gonna do next? And holy fucking shit, they really delivered just probably their best album to date. I was really impressed with the production, the lyricism, and just the musicianship. You know, they're trying other different instruments. And of course, they also had influence from the band Mute Math. Paul Meany of that band helped write a lot of these songs, and you can definitely feel that on there, and I think it's definitely the best direction for them to have taken. They could have kind of sold out with this, went more like mainstream radio pop, but they did not, and I just could not be happier. You know, the singles like Jumpsuit and My Blood were all fantastic on their own, but I never expected to get a full album of gems, like truly captivating gems, like Morph, The Hype, Cut My Lip, you know, Chlorine, which is incredible. Trench deserves Album of the Year, there's no doubt about it, it earned it. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are my top 10 favorite albums of 2018. Please keep in mind that this is just my personal list. Obviously, I'm not saying that these are the 10 best albums that came out this year. These are just my personal favorites from this year that I've been coming back to all year long, and I just can't get enough of. This list is also obviously based on my personal music taste. I don't listen to a ton of other genres. I mainly stick with rock, you know, alternative, mostly that area. Just keep that in mind. There's a lot of music out there, and I can only pick 10 albums for this, so these are my 10. But I really want to hear from you guys, so let me know down in the comment section your top 5 favorite albums of this year and why. And while you guys are here, make sure to leave a like on this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you happen to be new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you like music just like me, I make videos here pretty occasionally, normally every Wednesday, but I've had a lot of work stuff going on, so I've kind of had to put my channel on the back burner, but don't worry, I'm gonna be here. I'm not leaving. That's actually gonna be it for me today, guys, and I will see you in the next video.